You're listening to the Our Erie podcast with DaVona,
Marty Nwachukwu,
and Lydia Laythe.
We're here to highlight community voices and bring new perspectives to the table.
We are unpacking Erie's and America's baggage.
We're speaking truth to power.
Take a seat. That's interesting. Like, now we should do a survey of who high fives and who doesn't. And like,
You're always going to get someone who's like, I fist bump. I don't do either. You know?
Oh, and then those people just need to get out of town. They're phonies. No, I don't know. For those of you just tuning in, we were having a discussion on the last time some of us have high-fived in our lives. And DaVona and I were joking about it, and Marty revealed that she was feeling a little attacked because she tends to utilize the high five as a gesture of joy and self-expression. So we are just processing that now as a group, you know, figuring out how we all feel about it, how we can come back together, overcome this barrier, find common ground.
Is there an emoji high five? Like for
I do the two hands, like I think of it as like praise. This? Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I never know what that is for. I usually use it like raising the roof. That's what it was.
Isn't that fun? Buster was just telling me, so because he's been going into schools now for over a month, I think, and teaching like 7th and 8th grade science or something like that. And he was like, well, you know, like, you know, cap and no cap, because they were doing like a true or false test or something, and he overheard kids talking, and they were like, oh, is that fact or cap? And I was like, what? He's like, Lyd, you know, like how they say cap is like lies and no cap means truth. And I was like, huh? And he's like, yeah, and if you see like a ball cap emoji, like that means cap. Like, I was like,
lie.
A whole new language that I did not know existed.
Is this Gen Z or am I just out of the loop? This is my first time hearing that.
Really? You've never heard of no cap?
No, yeah.
Cap? Oh,
like, what does that even mean? Where does that come from?
Listen, I learned it from the younger ones, okay? From the teens that like, because and also rap music, like it's all through, like it's definitely.
So is this another example of like appropriated language that is...
I don't know. Like I know only my black folk use it. So I don't know. Like,
you know, half the time, sometimes when I listen to a song and it's like a younger rapper and I don't understand what's going on, I'm like, I don't know. I'm just nodding to it. You know, I don't need to investigate what they're saying. I'm sure they're communicating something to their peers.
Most of the time I'm just like saying gibberish along with the words because it's too fast for me to actually know what's like being said, so I'll just say things that kind of sound like the words.
I can never remember words, like the whole line. That's why I'm like, rap, like artists are like really good for you to be able to rap and like say words on I don't even know what the tone is. See, exactly, I don't even know. Like that is a skill. I try to rap the words and I never get them right. Ask Angel. She always laughs at me like, you never get the lyrics right.
The worst is you're like pretty close to the right thing, but you've like put your own little spin on it, like instead of saying
all the time
hat, and you're like, nope, that's not right.
I feel like the closer you get to auntie age, the more you get lyrics wrong and the names of celebrities wrongs and the name of like, you know.
Literally, I'll go through the whole house like, if it's up, then it's stuck. That's the only words that I know from Cardi B's Up. And then other than that, I'm just like, I can make the rock. I never know the words. And then I'm like, yeah, like, so I'll say the same line over and over again. Like that.
So funny. Yeah, today I was confronted with my mortality and my like aging, because I was like, cap and no cap? What? Huh?
Oh my, yeah. If you tell a lie, you're like, no, you capping. Or like, I don't even sound right using it. I'm not gonna lie. I'm just gonna listen, you lying. All right. See, but I mean, I don't even sound right using it. Yeah?
I don't know. Yeah. It's only gonna go downhill from here for me. Listen,
I'm stuck in the 90s.
I was watching the second season of The Circle. Have you ever seen that
Yes,
show?
I just
Yes.
I'm like up to date with what it is. Yeah, I've been watching it.
Okay, so for those who don't know, it's a Netflix series where it's actually perfect for like COVID world. All the contestants have their own little apartments, and the game is that they get to be themselves or pretend to be someone else on social media and win like popularity. And whoever is like the least popular contestants, and this sounds awful now that I'm describing it, but whoever the least popular contestant is, they get kicked off, and the reward I think is $100,000. So there was a character, a young Black woman pretending to be her husband.
Yes.
And she gets in there and she's like, hey, what's up? What's the 411? And then all the other cast members are like, what? 411? Like, is this a boomer? And I was like, whoa, I use 411 from, or at least I understand. Like, they were acting like this was a new lost language. I was like, dang, these are people who are like 21, 22. We're not that far from them. And they were like, she's obviously fake, because who says that anymore? You know?
Yeah.
That's like the one who didn't know who NSYNC was. Is it what the I forget? Is that in this episode? Is that
it was the first one.
Yeah, that's the season. Or like the one
who is NSYN, but also she
was from like England or
so I was just like, what the heck? But
or like the older guy that there was like a math problem that had to do with Jay-Z's like hit song, like a number of problems, and he was like, problems? I don't know this. But he's like pretending to be a young guy. And so then they're like, he didn't know 99 problems? Like, what? And so that made me feel good. But then, yes, there was other moments where I was like, okay, I don't know how to feel about my life and who I am as a human.
This show, though, it disturbs me a little bit. Like, I'm not the biggest TV watcher, and like every now and then I'll get into this mode while I'll watch TV, or like I'll pick a show that I want to watch. But when Angel's watching, I'll peep in. I'm like, what's the point of this? Like, I don't get it. I'll ask her 51,000 questions, and she'll be like, DaVona, if you don't watch this shit. So, I'm like, I don't get it. Like, I think that it really shows a lot about our society. Like the show, it's such a social experiment that is like, this is what people do. Like, some people do have certain images that they use. They'll use people's names. They'll use people's like social media to catfish other people. So then we're turning around and making it a show, and it just feels so like, I don't know, it feels weird. It just feels like, are we glorifying this, or are we not? Like, or are we just making
some of them play with the dynamics. Like, I haven't gone past the first episode, but the woman who decided to be her husband, she was like, well, men get treated better on social media. Some of them go in there with the understanding of how the world works and trying to weaponize that in the game. So sometimes that's interesting to see.
Yes, I think can bring up interesting conversations about those dynamics and social media, and the way that we are so critical and judgmental of people without really knowing anything about them.
Right. It's wild. That's why I'm like, I don't like, I get it, it's good for entertainment, but it's like disturbing at the same time. Like, this is crazy. This is entertainment. Wow. Like, not to put a damper on it, but that's how I feel when I watch these things.
Like, I wanted to see, not to take us down the television tunnel, just to see if either of you had watched, because it was advertised to me, but I'm like, I don't get the concept of this show. Marriage or House, I think it's called on Netflix.
No.
Where it's like,
Mortgage or Marriage or something? Wasn't that? Oh, I don't
something know. Like that. Like a real estate person and a like what do you call people who organize weddings?
Wedding planner?
Wedding planner. They compete to get the couple to either buy a house or plan a dream wedding. And I'm like, why would I ever choose the wedding? I can get married in any kind of fashion. Why would I not choose the house? I haven't watched it yet, but I'm fascinated to see how they actually make it a hard decision, because that does not seem like
it's called Marriage or Mortgage. I never can say that mortgage. That's wild.
Weird. Yeah, so, I don't get that either. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there are people that, well, I don't know. I don't want to be judgmental about it, but like, I don't know.
Investment that you're getting, you probably pay the taxes on, but like an investment that you're getting for free that you get to live in versus a ceremony.
That's a one-time event.
Yeah, these movies, I mean, these shows definitely sensationalize, just like even The Bachelor and The Bachelorette and all those movies, like those shows. I'm just like, come on, like this is, you know, like,
just such ridiculousness, the amount of money that goes into stuff like this. Sometimes I just think about that as I watch different shows and they're like on different like exclusive resorts and things, and I'm like, how much money are we spending on this one show that we could be prioritizing somewhere else and be putting into something like
Girl,
productive for society?
True.
I think that all the time. Yes, right. Like that's why these shows should have like statistics and like, you know, like things like, you know, incorporate, like have the show, but then talk about the realities of like, you know, mortgage or marriage, why we're having this show. Like, I don't know. I feel like they could, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like they
have like a
put
deeper meaning.
Yeah, I guess we're looking for meaning. That's what I'm looking for.
But
I'm looking for meaning.
Escape though too. Like I watch The Bachelor and Bachelorette, even though like I despise it in so many spaces. Like I also watch it because it's a total escape from any reality of anything. Like there's no that like if you want just like brain numbing content that you just are watching to watch. I don't know.
But they try to address things sometimes. Go ahead.
So what?
They try to address things sometimes. Like I watched the first episode of the newest season of The Bachelor where they have the first Black contestant, and it was like this big dramatic thing where he's like, "I'm Black," and he sits down with Chris Harrison, and Chris Harrison is listening to him. Like, I don't know what Chris Harrison is the best person to be talking about the weight. Like, and it was just ridiculous.
Well, and then he pulled out of that season at the very end.
Who, The Bachelor or Chris Harrison?
No, Chris Harrison. Because he got a lot of backlash for the way he responded to some incidents of like racial insensitivity, and he like played it, and so there was a huge backlash. So for like the final episode of that season, it's a different guy. It's like a young Black guy that basically hosts it for the last episode.
Wow.
Because Chris Harrison had basically said like, "I'm taking a break," which I also feel like, I don't know, if you're doing it because you think that as a white man you're taking opportunities away from someone else and you're trying to like take a step back after doing this for decades, like maybe. But if it's in the context of you getting held accountable for problematic like thoughts and words, then maybe you should have to stick with this discomfort and like finish it out and be accountable to it. I don't know. It felt weird.
I love that idea. Well, that is intent though. Like, what is the intention?
Right.
Like, and that person's like, not to assume that his intention was that, because I'm sure it's a mixture of things, not being able to confront the fact that you might have some biases. Like, I don't know how hard, well, I'm not gonna say that. I think it might be difficult for people, but how hard is it as an adult to admit when you are wrong and to stand there and say, I am wrong. I didn't realize that what I did was insensitive, blah, 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 blah. I feel like I would be like, thank you, stay on the show, but thank you for that. Cause I think it shows humility. And that's one thing I'm like, I know that people take break. Was it who just recently too, just left Step Down, or was she fired? I think she stepped down before she was fired. Was it Sharon Osbourne?
She just
with all that and, you know, the commentary. And that, you know, that was like interesting because I'm like, okay, you stepped down, but why? Like, instead of really being like, listen, I have so much to learn still, and I want to stay here and continue to learn with you all. Right. I love you all.
Good behavior for learning.
Yeah, like not to say, you know what, I'm done. I am not a racist. Okay, you don't have to. Okay,
no,
but like you're making it worse when you do that. Like, it's like, that's how I view it. You know, it's like the intent, the action, and all that. It's like it shows people like. It shows on the outside. You don't even have to let, like, you know,
but it's such an ego thing, right? Like, they make it more about them because they see it as about them versus saying, yeah, this isn't about me. Like, this is about the harm I'm causing to other people. This is about how I need to grow as a person. Like, this isn't about me.
Right.
You know, I don't know. I feel people like that, they get so caught up in their ego and like protecting their own ego and pride and like perfect illusion of who they are, rather than saying like, yeah, I'm not perfect and I'm gonna learn from this and I'm gonna keep pushing through it, and it's uncomfortable right now because I'm still learning, but like we all are. I don't know.
This kind of would be a nice transition into like the sheriff's race and all the news that
oh my god, yes, people.
Which one of y'all, because I don't feel prepared to talk about all of
not either. Let's see.
But like, can one of y'all talk about some of the news that's come out?
Well, okay. Background, our options for sheriff it's for Erie County, so it's the whole county.
Mm-hmm.
Our options for the sheriff are dismal. They are so freaking disappointing. And I say that pretty confidently in just like you don't have to dig deep to be disappointed by what you see.
No.
So we don't need to spend too much time on the Republican ticket, which is Brian Shank, but he's been accused of sexual misconduct in the women's prison system and then basically belittled and degraded all women in the prison system, basically saying that women who are incarcerated just inherently lie more and will try to manipulate and deceive people, which is just horrible for anyone to say, but horrible for someone that was working in the prison system for so long to think that he had power over these people and basically saw them as like less than human. So that's that in a nutshell. On the Democratic ticket, which is even more controversial and disappointing, you have Chris Campanelli and Anthony Sanfilippo. And there might be another guy, but those are the two.
Nope, that's it.
That's it? Okay. Mm-hmm. And again, pretty freaking disappointing options. Most notably and most recently, Anthony Sanfilippo has been revealed to have been making really derogatory posts on social media about the Black Lives Matter movement, about Obama, about like liberals in general, and just a lot of stuff that like you wouldn't want someone with the most power in law enforcement to be saying less than 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm. And running on the Democratic ticket.
And running on the Democratic ticket, which is bizarre to me.
Yeah, I know that recently that I read that the Erie County Democratic Party did, and they don't normally during a primary endorse somebody. And I know that they did endorse Chris, I can't remember.
Chris Campanelli.
Chris Campanelli, yes, thank you. And that's where a lot of more controversy like kind of sparked, like because Anthony Filippo, whatever, something like that was upset about the fact that has transpired. But I mean, this whole situation just kind of sheds light on the fact that we still have so much work to do as far as knowing when these races are happening and people being able to step up and be confident in being one to run in these races. Because I will say it's very hard sometimes to find the information when these races are happening and all those other things, especially here in Erie County. I'm like, why is that not more transparent? And I think that they're working on that, but it's like, we definitely need to know ahead of time. That way people can be prepared. But I don't know. I just think this is all just a bunch of crap. It's just I'm not shocked and surprised by these things because it's just what has been happening in Erie for a very long time. We really struggle with structural racism here. And that's something that we are now talking about, but it's a big issue, especially like you said, Lydia, with this being in law enforcement. It's scary to know that somebody who will play as having democratic policy, but really honestly not, even considering people. Right.
Or like someone that will be in the highest office of law enforcement who posted on their social media page a meme that made fun of Black Lives Matter protesters or marchers and basically said something to the effect of like, well, if you are going to protest us, then we'll just ignore your call when you call for help, when you call 911.
Yes, that was...
And like, that can't be like people asking for police accountability and the end of police brutality are not criticizing police officer. Like,
it's like a doctor saying, I disagree with your politics, therefore I'm not going to treat you here in this ICU,
Exactly.
Which is, can't pick and choose.
Right. How can you ethically say that you deserve to have any power in that system if that's your attitude? But that's exactly that. And that's what terrifies me. That's what terrifies me about this whole thing, is because these systems are so much bigger than us and they run on their own. and they are vicious and vindictive. And
it's crazy because I guess I always have these thoughts of like character in the politicians that I look at, you know, the character of an individual. And I think for me, what I've come to realize is that like if I'm going to vote for somebody, I want to vote for them based off of what they're showing me and kind of like their heart. And, you know, it's hard because right now we're having to watch a race kind of virtually, you know what I'm saying? Yes, we're able to meet and whatnot, but there has been a majority of the races being held virtually where people have to like have different virtual spaces. And in that, it's kind of hard to like know who to vote for. I think, you know, me, obviously I know, you know, I'm close connections, but what about some people who are not, you know, in close connections with people and know who to vote for? And when they go up to the polls or when they vote, if they even vote, who do they vote for? I'm literally going for the younger generation. I'm sorry. Like, that's just who I'm going for at this moment.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult, especially on these local elections, like you said, DaVona, like where the information isn't as accessible for people to learn more about these candidates. So you have people running that basically, like, outside of maybe having yard signs, aren't doing much publicly to show like what they're going to do or what kind of person they are. And so the thought that they could win over other people that are active and engaging and putting themselves out there and trying to reach out to folks is frustrating.
That's what happens time and time again. That's the culture of this town until I literally don't know.
Yeah.
Until something shifts. And low voter turnout is also the worst. Low voter turnout.
Yeah.
For sure. Well, and also just like our democracy only works when we are educated voters, like when we are informed. So it only works when we know who we're voting for, when we know what we're voting on. I mean, this year in the primary, we have 4 ballot questions that we're all going to be asked to vote on 3 of which will change the Pennsylvania Constitution if they pass. So like, yeah, if you don't know what you're voting for, I mean, like, yeah, it doesn't work and it's difficult. And our system, I am hopeful in that mail-in ballots are becoming more common and more accessible, which allows people to see what's on the ballot and then research before they cast their vote. Gives them more time to do that sort of research and digging. But at the same time, it's still not perfect.
Facts.
My mail-in ballot just came in the mail today.
Nice.
Yes, I'm going. I need to get out of the house. I've decided I'm going to the poll.
Yeah. I just applied for my mail-in ballot.
Yes.
Like last week sometime, I think.
Time's coming. Time's up almost.
It's exciting stuff. So, okay. So in other races, let's think who else we can kind of give a rundown on for listeners. We also have county executive candidates that are running. I have my 2 top favorites, but we can review all the folks if we want. Yes. Does anyone have an immediate reaction they want to jump in with? DaVona?
I mean, it's so many, I can't say so many good people because I think I've met Delana and Tyler. Obviously I know Tyler. Rita's Bishop is, do we need to say the names?
Sure.
Okay. So for a county executive, it's Rita Bishop, Carl Anderson, Delana Graysinger, Tyler Titus, Sean Robleski, and Bretton Davis. So my pick is definitely Tyler Titus. But yeah, I mean, I don't know I don't know, should I go further? Like,
yeah, you can.
So this is my thing with with Tyler. They are definitely an advocate for all people. And I can say that through their experience of being a person who lived in rural area, but moved theirself to the city and also is advocating for not just rural, but also city. That, to me, having that perspective is what we need, not to be focusing on one specific group. They're focusing on multiple groups of people because they realize that intersectionality is super important, and our policies that we have help all people. And so I think that's what we really need. And that's why, I think that's what for me most importantly is why I want to uplift that person's name, because I see the things that they're doing, like putting action to the words, like helping the LGBT community, having Compton's Table, really lifting young people up, and supporting young people, being a therapist. Like, having a holistic approach to things that could be potentially better for us, especially focusing on climate change, especially focusing on things that like healthcare and things that are everyday issues for people. And so that, to me, that's that, knowing that they have a vision that would help us in the county as a whole is, to me, is very and to put themselves out there, even with adversity, is like powerful. A lot of people would kind of, go back into their shell but that person is so like comfortable with being uncomfortable. And that is, to me, very important in a candidate. And not being all knowing, but realizing that they need to still learn, and that they are willing to work with one another and willing to work with people. And that's honestly, in all candidates, that's what I'm looking for. I'm really looking for that collaboration and people who will step outside of themselves.
How about you, Marty?
I was going to say I'm with DaVona, where I feel like I want to vote for the next generation, because the next generation is more collaborative, whether it's because we have seen and witnessed what prior generations have done and felt like it doesn't work for us to work that way, or maybe we're just people who like to work with other people. But I am for people who understand that no one person's going to have all the answers, and we're all learning and growing, and our blind spots are all that we don't know each other's experiences, and we don't know each other's needs. So how can we collaborate and build a bridge together, rather than Lydia, you talked about it recently, how you were bothered by questions about how are you going to reach across to the LGBTQ communities? Like, they're my neighbors, not this separate island of people that I have to go pack up and go talk to,
Right.
we're all together. I don't understand. And that's that separation.
Right. That's exactly the mentality of these like straight, heteronormative, upper middle class, white men and women that like, their bubble looks and believes and has the same experiences as them.
Facts.
So to engage with diversity, whatever that looks like for them, like does require them to reach out. But yeah, that question has always not stumped me, but just like, I don't want to be condescending, but just, it always just feels like, what a softball, I don't know, like what a weird question to ask. Like we can ask better questions and more complex questions, and also acknowledge that like you don't know what communities people belong to. You don't know like who these people are necessarily. So to say like implying that they are outside of certain communities, I thought was also interesting. I don't know.
It's putting otherness into like your questions even.
Yeah. For sure. It's like making exclusion part of this question where you're trying to talk about inclusion.
Well, people also, I feel like not people, but we also need to realize that like and I think this is what we're all touching on, is the fact that like we can focus on multiple issues at the same time. And I'm really realizing that like, it's like people are like, okay, well, we got to focus on this one thing first, and then we'll come back to then you. And I keep getting in my mind, I think about the feminist movement, right? In the feminist movement, white women were like, okay, we trying to get our rights, but y'all Black folk stay in the back. Y'all back here, and we just, we'll wait your turn. And ain't nobody waiting our turn. At this point, we can focus on all multiple issues, because multiple issues are all literally similar if you think about it. Like, they all go together. So,
well, and you don't get to choose which issues you deal with on a daily basis. Like, that was always bizarre to me too. Like, what do you mean? What do you mean the LGBTQ community? Like, that also includes the Black community. That also includes people with disabilities. That also includes like people not born in the United States. Like, so to think, yeah, I don't know. Again, it shows people's gaps in awareness when they ask these questions as if, oh, LGBTQ community means predominantly white gay men. And that's who you need to be outreaching to. And the Black community predominantly means Black men. And that's who you need to be reaching out. Like, and we're missing so many different people in the process.
And I feel like that's also not to broad brush, and I hope no one feels called out, but I think it also is reflected in who we call leaders. That like, oh, I'm going to reach out to the Black community. That means I'm going to connect with Black male leadership. So that's what you see whenever you see like press conferences and things. I'm going to reach out to the LGBTQ community. Who do you often see? A white male, gay man as the person.
Right. Right.
It's the stereotype, Marty. I feel it. It's the respectability politics too, y'all. We have to understand, like, it is a deep virus here. Like, that's one of the other ones. Like, we have to, for me, like we're talking about leadership. Leaders are not necessarily ones that I see like in politics. They're like people that are like, you know, my friends, like all y'all. Like, we're still in politics, we're still in community organizing, but the leadership feels very genuine. You see, because you put yourself in those spaces. And I just don't understand why we continuously look for the same people to like speak as well. It's like, there's, even including myself, I'm like, there's other people out here. Like, there's other voices, many other voices that would love to share their sentiments, their ideas, their, you know, whatever, like their business. And it's just, it becomes, the respectable thing is just, I'm tired of it here. That's what I'm seeing a lot. And so you still see it even in this race. Of like, okay, well, we know that this person's running and we're just gonna always vote for them because we see their name in the ballot all the time. And it's just like, no, like, do you know what they're really implementing? Do you know what they have done? Like, that is gonna further us now? Like, I don't know. So we have next though. Okay, so that's county executive. We have county council. Second district is Andre Horton's the only one running for a second district. So that's
he's running uncontested.
Uncontested, yes.
So it's just
and then fourth district, we have Julia Ann Calipo, Angela McNair, Kevin Pastuca, Jim Winarski, Timothy Gostomsky. County council for Carl that's Anderson the fourth seat. District, yes. Carl Anderson seat. For county council 6th district, I don't know. There's this like chick. I think her name is Lydia. There's this chick running.
I think I heard about that.
I don't know. Her name. Anyway, y'all should follow her social media, both of them, because
obnoxious.
The girl is on point. Okay, really putting up. Really, your social media is really informative, and I learned so much. And those need to follow you for real. I mean, I'm not in your district. I cannot vote for you, but you already know, girl, please vote for Lydia.
Oh, it's all good. But yeah, no, it's funny you say that because I got a message from someone the other day that said they weren't in my district, but they wanted to help. And their sister had shown them a bunch of videos I had made for the campaign about IRG. And they were like, my sister was showing our family them, and like, we're like super stoked about whatever, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, I mean, I don't pay attention to other people, like other political social media pages, just because like I don't have time to do that. But I have not seen anyone engaging with specific issues like I am. And I think that's probably pretty intentional with folks that in their efforts to win, they try to like water themselves down or make themselves like more, you know, abstract so that people can't get upset about like specific things they want to do. But to me, it's always just been like, they're either going to vote for me or they're not. Like, they might as well accept. Like, today I went out and I did not put on a full face of makeup. I did not, like, I wore my sweater out that I wore to work. Like, I wasn't trying to get all like respectability politics. Like, I wasn't trying to look a certain part. Like, at the end of the day, if you can't vote for someone that dresses like a normal person and still like looks presentable, but like if I have to change my appearance to such a degree that it like is stressing me out and takes an extra hour and a half in the morning, like then maybe you just weren't going to vote for me either way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I love it. You're remaining genuine and true to yourself, and that you won't have to ever regret. Period. Like,
and it stands out. I watched a little bit of the thing you did at the Democratic. I don't know what it's called, but the Democratic YouTube, where you
their panel that they did.
Yeah, their YouTube. Yeah.
Or was it the CAM, the Community Access Media?
Yeah, the panel. Discussion.
Oh, okay, the panel.
Yeah, you stood out because, you know, everyone responded, but you were like, okay, here's the question. Here's how this question may be a little problematic. Here's my worldview, and here are the issues that align with, like, the way you dug in and, like, put yourself into it stands out amongst all the other candidates. And it's not even just like, oh, if I have to vote for someone, I'm going to vote for Laythe. It's like, no, this is a person that is interesting. This is a person who is fascinating. This is a person that I want to see lead.
Facts.
You know?
Thank you.
Facts.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I can't help it. I don't know how to do it any other. Like, I don't know how people sit there and then like, just like, I don't know, just say a bunch of like, stuff that just is like meaningless. I don't know.
It's
know.
Literal fluff sometimes.
It is. It's pure fluff.
There's no
like
substance.
The one question about like unions drove me nuts hearing people talk about it. I was like, you're talking a lot, and I'm not convinced you even know what a union does, because the way you're talking about it is like so surface level. Like you're like, oh, I support unions. Okay. Great, like that's baseline. As Democrats, like I would hope everyone on the Democratic ticket supports unions, but like what does that mean to you? What does that look like?
I don't know, you're just really knowledgeable about everything. And how do you do it? That's basically what I want to know. Like, how do you do it? You know, like some people are just good in their one space, but you are really knowledgeable and, you know, about, you have worldview. You have a really, you know, a grand view of a lot of things.
I mean, honestly, I think the biggest barrier that I've overcome in the last like 5 years of my life as I've like grown into my adulthood is, and I'm still doing that as I like ate 5 Twizzlers before this podcast started, but like is almost like stripping away the barriers of self-doubt of I don't know enough, because the reality is we all know a lot. And if we just kind of took away that I almost see it as like a filter or like a mask or something, like the filter that tells us, oh, don't say too much about this because you don't know enough about this to talk about it. But the reality is like these motherfuckers that are in certain positions of power know even less than us, but they bullshit their way through it. And so then they keep going and they keep making decisions that affect our lives on things that they don't know anything about. So the fact that I know like this much about something to me is like enough to start talking about it. And at the end of the day, like we talked about at the very beginning of this, like with humility, and if I can always just be rooted in humility, then I don't ever have to worry about not knowing everything. And I can take what I do know and apply it to this. But then I can also say, thank you for bringing that up. I was not aware. Like I did that for, there was like a survey for the Erie Gay News, and they had asked some questions, and there was information that I wasn't aware of at the county level. And I just said, in hindsight, maybe I should have written it a little bit more eloquently, but they published my answers like the way I wrote them, which was wow, exclamation point. I didn't know that, exclamation. Like I overuse exclamation points, but I'm that kind of person. So take with it what you will. But that's just the reality, right? You're not going to know everything. And if people expect someone to know everything, like that's just unrealistic. And I think people are tapping into that. People can tell when you are inauthentic or when you're bullshitting them. And I think maybe to Marty's point, like that's what helps me stick out, is because I'm not bullshitting. I would never want to bullshit just because I think that that's so deeply disrespectful to the people you're communicating with. But I also like literally cannot bullshit. Like I can't lie. I have never been able to lie. Like it eats away at me. So even telling like the smallest little fib, like I have to come back and be like, I'm sorry guys. I said I was running late because of this, but really I'm running late because I had to use the bathroom or whatever. Right. And so I think part of it is is the humility piece. I think another piece of it is like the opposite of humility, like the self-confidence to say, you know what, I do know enough to speak on this. I do know enough to run for this office. I do know enough to hold these people accountable. And sometimes even just flipping that switch in your head, which I had to do a lot when I first started as a trauma therapist to men convicted of sexual offenses. And I was in a room of 8 middle-aged men trying to tell me that they were not being sexist when they said XYZ about women. That was like blatantly sexist. I had to find the confidence in myself that even though there was men twice my age and a room full of men maybe saying that I was wrong, I had to figure out, okay, no, I'm right, and I need to stick to that truth and keep pushing it and explain it in different ways and keep going. I mean, Marty and I just had that experience with someone recently where they didn't realize that what they had said was misogynist and sexist, and they had said some things like that were covertly sexist. They had not been aware of it, and we had to keep explaining it to them again and again, but we didn't back down. And I think that's I think I'm getting off on a tangent, but I think it's connected in that the way you stay grounded, the way that you can keep approaching situations as if you're knowledgeable, because I do a lot of reading, I do a lot of watching documentaries, I do a lot of talking to people, so I do know a considerable amount of things about a lot of different topics, but I also don't know everything. And so I think humility, self-confidence, and staying centered on what you know is true, I think are the 3 most important things.
Yes. And that's why those in 6th district need to vote for you. For real.
Shucks.
As the representative, because I love that. I love that so much because you embody it. So it's not even just you saying it, you embody that. So I thank you.
Not only just for your district, what it would mean for the rest of us all over the county to have someone like Lydia in county government.
Right.
Because it's the bonding or the bounding body of government, you know? What happens up there affects us all.
That's true.
I know that's what I've been thinking about too, is like, like only certain people can vote for their district. But then at the end of the day, once that person gets in there, like they're going to affect the entire county. They're going to affect the city of Erie just as much as their decisions are affecting their district. Like there's not like a confine that's like, oh, this representative's vote only affects their district. Like, no, they affect the whole freaking thing.
Facts.
And how powerful that can be for the better or for the worse. So yeah, I mean, regardless of what race we're talking about, I think it's just so important that people take the time to really do the research and view things with a critical lens, like ask questions. And if people aren't willing to answer questions, or they don't have good reasons for certain views, or they don't have specific examples of how they're going to do something, like put people's feet to the fire, you know, hold them to it and say, okay, you said you're going to do this, you know. And that's, I think, what we'll need to look at after the primaries is whoever makes it through the primaries, if we're going to be backing them up, if we're going to be supporting them, if they're going to make it to whatever seat they're looking to get to, like they need to be held accountable for whatever they're promising, whatever they're saying. And we need to find ways to just hold them accountable, keep their feet to the fire.
Facts. And that's all Mary Had a Little Lamb. We'll talk about that later.
What?
Yeah.
Again, it's like no cap. We'll talk about that.
It's a whole new language. I just can't even keep up.
Well, we gotta get out of here soon. So let's close up with like some good, exciting news, and also how you can participate in the next few weeks.
Boop boop. Marty.
Well, let's just do this. Let's jump right in. We just want to thank everybody for tuning in and listening to us. We now have crossed 4,000 plays. 4,000 plays, y'all. That is great. It's in less than a year. Yeah, less than a year. So we appreciate y'all for tuning in. And I hope that we continue to bring you I hope that you love what we're bringing y'all. And And so as far as book club, though, our book club is happening. It's on and popping. And Friday, May 21st, we have decided to have our book club conversation. So for those who are listening and those who want to tune in to read the book is Hood Feminism, by Mickey Kendall. And she is awesome. Read the book and tune in with us and have a conversation. You can go into our past and look to our past season. We actually did a book club for Black Indians. And so we decided to bring it back again. So I hope that y'all would join us and be great.
Yeah, and if you go to our milkshake site, right, that's where they can sign up to join the book club.
And we will post that in the bio, in the description of this episode.
Yeah. So then you can sign up there. We'll send you an email with all the info you need to join us. And yeah, we're looking forward to it.
Peace.
See y'all next week.
Yeah.
You've been listening to the Our Erie podcast.
Community voices unpacking Erie's baggage and speaking truth to power.
You can continue the conversation on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter at Our Erie Series.
Funding provided by United Way of Erie and Ember+Forge.
Music produced by Light Shadow.
We appreciate you for listening to the Our Erie podcast. Until next time, take care of yourself.
Keep fighting the good fight.
Peace.